Hi guys, welcome back. Last time I left you, I had just cut splines to reinforce the miters on each one of the picture frames that I was working on. And I got a lot of call-ins, some texts, a few Skypes about the material that I should use for my splines. And it varied from ash, a light wood, maple, a light wood, to Purple Heart. A lot of people like the Purple Heart that was in Naomi's frame. And the actual winner of this is going to be a piece of walnut. I like the contrast of the cherry and the walnut. It's cherry right now at that color is pretty light. So I'm going to put a nice piece of dark walnut in there. Cherry will darken with age, but probably not dark enough where it's going to hide a piece of walnut. Actually, the reason why I chose walnut is I looked around the shop, and as I went through my scrap box, I didn't find anything that was decent. Most of my scrap pieces are little pieces like this, or boards that are cut across the grain this way. But I went in the back room and I found a piece of shelving that someone had brought in, and I know that this is a piece of walnut. It's got a finish on it, even though it doesn't look like walnut. This certainly does look like walnut. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece out of this because we're really not going to use this for anything, but I could use it for splines. I don't waste any material. Remember, what I need it to be is at least 1/4 of an inch thick to fit into my spline, which is that 1/4 of an inch. The other thing that I want to keep in mind is that I'm going to cut my board to a certain width that will cover this when I make the grain going across the grain of that miter to reinforce it. So the width of my board is going to be, I'm kind of estimating it's probably around 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less. But I don't want to make a mistake with this, and this is just a piece of scrap wood. What I did was I set the fence on the table saw to be 1 inch. I made it 1 inch, so I know that that's going to be at least wide enough to cover my splines. So I'm going to make this board, I'm going to cut this rip to 1 inch wide, and then you're going to tell me, hey, it doesn't fit into that spline that I cut out, that spline opening. We're going to take a walk over to the surfacer. We'll surface the piece down, see if we can get it so it fits in perfect. We'll go over to the bandsaw, cut them to size, glue them in, and then plane them down. I don't know if we can do all that today. That's pretty ambitious. Cameraman's going like this, no way. We'll give it a shot. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my board to 1 inch wide. Again, I leave the guard down so that you guys can see me make my cut. I took my board, I have a machined edge over here. Some people say, hey, you got a burn mark, you should joint it. Well, I'm really not gonna see that. So I'm gonna leave that in place, but I definitely know someone cut this before. It definitely is machined. What I'm going to do is raise the blade up to the correct height. And you know what I did? I did this before you guys came in here. Because people are going to say to me, raise the blade first before you set the fence. That's true, but I know I set it in the ballpark. So I'm going to just finalize this, make my cut, take the board over to the surfacer. To do this, I could either use my push block or push stick. There's no reason to use anything else. I'm not going to use my hand if the fence is only 1 inch wide. I hold on to this piece. I'll turn the machine on. I think I'm going to use my push block. I think that gives me a nice stable way of doing this. I'm going to turn the stock on. Remember, L with my left hand. Safety glasses are on. Lanyards in the back. Sleeves are rolled up. I'm going to put my left hand here. I'm not going to move my left hand. My right hand, I grab it with my push block. And all I'm going to do is push it through the path of the blade. When I get to this point, I run out of left hand. I drop my left hand. I'm going to send the board all the way through. If you guys were making this cut, I'd be standing right there and grab the board from you. I shut it off. Just to be safe, I want to make sure that I lower the blade, put it below the surface of the wood. I'm all set, ready to make my cut. As I make my cut, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to surface my board over to the surfacer so that it fits into my spline opening. I could go over to the table saw and rip this, but what I found out is, and I think we decided this to be true, when I was cutting my piece, to glue my board's surface to surface, I took the complement of the other side. It's really important that that blade be exactly 90 degrees. I don't know that that blade is. If it's angled just a little bit, it's going to affect the way it fits into that mitered opening. So what I did was, I came over here, I set the surfacer to about 3/4 of an inch, which is about the thickness of this piece of wood. I'm going to send it in as many times as it requires it to make this so it fits into that spline opening. Let's see if I can do this accurately. I don't know why, but I always feel naked without a pencil. I'm going to hold on to the board, put it in place, it sends through, and it cuts. It just cut a little bit, so that was perfect. Notice the difference between old walnut that's got a finish on it and new walnut that's been surfaced down. So I want to make sure I surface both of these. Not that you're really going to see it, but I want to do both surfaces. The next thing I'm going to do, if you remember when you set a surfacer, I'm going to loosen up my gold knob, turn my crank wheel a half turn clockwise, tighten down my gold knob, I'll send it in on the opposite surface. Does this fit in? No. I got to surface it more. Matter of fact, I got a lot to surface. Half turn, send it in. Whenever you work on a surface planer, you always want to make sure that you own this machine. You don't offer your piece of wood like it's a piece of food for a monster. I take it, I put it in there. Ah. This thing is like a dog. It will sense if you're afraid of it. You don't have to send it in every other surface. This side is getting crunched up by the rollers a little bit. So I'm going to send this in a little bit more on that surface. You kind of have to find the sweet spot so the roller doesn't destroy the edge. That's better. Well, if I look at this is nice and clean, both surfaces. I go to fit this in and it's still a ways off. So I still have quite a bit to surface down. But the accuracy that I get from the surfacer far outweighs the cut that I would make on the table saw if the blade is at a slight angle. This is going to give me more of a consistent fit. Someone said to me, how much am I taking off with each cut? It's about a 32nd of an inch. A half a turn is about a 32nd of an inch. Maybe that should be a question. How much is a half turn adjustment on the surface planer? 32nd of an inch. And I don't want anybody writing in or sending comments to me telling me that I used to be a humble shop teacher and now I've gone Hollywood. I've been here 40 years. I think it's about time I blow this one-horse cigar stand of a high school. Maybe look for bigger and better things.
So you are going Hollywood?
Nah, I think I'll stay here. I like it here. A little bit more? Hey, maybe that should be a question. Is he going Hollywood? See the chips, they're very, very small. I'm getting to that point right now where this is really getting close. I don't want this loose because I'd have to do the whole thing all over again. I think this is going to be my last half turn before I start making like quarter turns. The other thing is this fit is going to be more consistent. If I cut on the table saw, it might fit here, but it wouldn't fit in the middle. The surfacer gives me a more consistent fit. I'm only going to go about a quarter turn more. It's about a 64th of an inch or so. Uh-oh. That fits really, really nice. And again, it looks like I picked a good week to give up drinking. That's perfect because I have a little bit of resistance. But the other thing that often happens is that I try to make this too perfect and it's too tight. If you run into that situation, if you take the spline and you could only go down this far, remember, you've got to add glue to this. And glue, as everybody knows, reacts with wood. It's like your mother's feet in the summertime when her feet swell. If I put a little bit of glue on there, it's going to start to swell up, so it's going to make that an even tighter joint. So right there, boy, that's pretty good. I think I'm ready to go with this. Let's see. Now, the couple of other things I need a bottle of glue, I need a pencil, which I took, and I'm going to need my bandsaw friend over there. Let's see how this works. Let me get the glue first. I have to get 8 splines out of that, which means I want to try to be as consistent as I possibly can be with the use. I'm going to take this board, place it right in my spline. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this out, cut this to the size it has to be. I want to make sure that my wood goes all the way across that entire spline. I don't want to end it there. I want to make sure it goes all the way up to the spline. I push it in, I'm holding it in. The other thing that I'm going to show you on this side is I make the pencil not right up against the frame, but I'm favoring it a little bit. I make it a little bit bigger than what it has to be. I always like to do these one at a time. I don't know why. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the bandsaw. I know this is the frame or the miter that I'm going to use. I'm going to take this, cut this over to the bandsaw so it's a little bit more workable. Put glue, slide it into the miter. Come on, let's go to the bandsaw. There's no reason why I have to be super accurate with this. So I'll only use one pair of glasses. Again, my fingers aren't directly in front of the blade. So there's one cut. There's my second cut. That one's good. I'm going to take the piece that I just cut. We're going to walk back here and see how quick this goes. I take it, I line it up. Yup, it still fits into that miter really well. I'm going to take glue and I'm going to put it on the surface. I don't want to get glue on my hands because, as you know, if you get it on your clothes, it's going to turn white. So I put a little bit of glue on there, not a whole lot. Bop, 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 bop. Now I'm going to take this spline and I'm going to slide it right into that spline opening. Please make sure it extends past the groove that you cut of that spline. And you can see it is on both sides. Now I'm going to take the board. I'll turn the board. I'm going to take my spline material, place it in. Again, another winner. I don't want to put it so it just barely makes it. I want to make sure that I have a little bit of space here. I want to favor the space, and I'm going to mark it out right about there. I'm going to come back to the bandsaw. I'll do the same cut. So there's my miter. That works out well. And again, I oversize this. You don't have to oversize it a whole lot. You just don't want to undersize it. If you undersize it, yeah, you're done. You're not undersizing it, you're dundersizing it. So I have glue on the surface, a little bit on the edge, slide it in, that's fine. Flip it. Same thing on this one. Mark it. People say, hey, can you just mark one and cut them all? I guess I can. I always like to do one at a time though. I don't know why. And about this time you're saying, man, this is really getting boring. I think this is getting fun. Fun. Glue on the surface, on the edge, slide it in. And my last one for here. Now my question to you is this the good frame for my daughter or the bad frame for my son? This is a good frame for my daughter. I'll be extra careful with these miters. And I still have plenty of material for that inferior frame. No, the other frame, not the inferior frame. After these get glued in place, my suggestion is we'll wait, maybe about, you can wait 2 to 3 hours. Depends on how much of a rush you're in. I've planed splines down in 15 or 20 minutes. But with glue, I always kind of wait 24 hours. I don't know why. The other thing is, after I finish these 4 splines, what I could probably do is I could work on that cheese board that I was working on. All right. I'm going to take this, flip this over. I'm going to mark this one out. I'll cut it. Again, because they're all oversized, it's not that important. But I don't want to bore you and lose my Las Vegas contract that I was offered to replace Siegfried and Roy. Oh yeah. Four splines, I'll do the same thing. A little extra glue on here so I can get them both. Here, here, here. And I'll slide it in. When these fit well, it really looks good. Really, it reinforces that miter. And the best part about a spline, it is a strength it's a strength process. It strengthens the joint, but it also looks really, really good. Anybody who ever has seen a spline miter, you go, hey man, how the heck did that thing get in there? We'll clean up these when you come in the next time. We'll take them to the bandsaw, and then what we'll do is we'll actually use the hand plane. Remember when I was cleaning up these miters, I said to you, you could either use a chisel, you could use a scraper, or you could use a hand plane. Well, when we make these exactly even, you're going to use a hand plane. This is really one of the craftsman's tool. If you could master this hand plane, you are really in good shape, because it definitely takes a feel of the I shouldn't say the machine, a feel of the hand tool. And if you can do that and clean up these that spline material, get it exactly even with the surface, in this case, it really looks sharp. It'll be cleaner than if you sanded it up. So I'm going to leave you guys at this stage. Like I said, the next time we'll bandsaw these, get these a little closer. Then we'll get the hand plane and we'll plane them down. Then we'll go over to the router table. Maybe we'll put a new router bit on that router table. We'll round this over and get ready for this to be sanded. Any questions, you guys know where I am. Feel free to shoot me an email or send me a text. Well, maybe don't send me a text. Yeah, shoot me an email. Yeah, that's good. Any questions, come get me. Adios.